I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to and what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility, convincingly unwilling to put in the hours it takes to get some power. Don't be f***ing sour, take a cold shower. Scream until you're louder, work until you're prouder. And all the doubters, they're just young downers. I swear to God they all let me down. I
can tell you that 7 years after Freddie Gray, that was 2015, spring, April, May. This is 2022. Communities like Sandtown, all we saw then and now in terms of investment was a renovated Western District Police Station and a new funeral home. That's what West Baltimore got. A new police station and a new funeral home. What kind of optics are they? Was Freddie Gray any different than 1968 Baltimore riots? Dr. King's passing, killing, murder? Is it the same?
No. I mean, I think, well, first of all, people who are doing violence and burning, that's, all of that's the same. But the point is what was the cause and what were they attempting to register?
I always fought just to wear the crown. I'm off at these fucking clowns. They deserve it now. It's got next. It's only worth it if you work for it. I won't stop till they hear me now. I won't stop till I wear the crown. I swear to God they don't let me down. I always fought just to wear the crown.
Top of the morning to you. First name's Donnie, last name's Glover, in it to win it for the long haul, baby. This show is on the blackusa.news network, which includes bemorenews.com, now in its 20th year. We often talk about business and entrepreneurship on this network, which includes, I think, about 17 shows or so, including a young lady that we are about to bring up. But I just wanted to take a moment and encourage you to like and share this video. Do check out some of the other ones on our channels. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Again, we're big on business, entrepreneurship. We push our listeners, viewers to be politically active wherever you should live. We're based here in Baltimore, Maryland. We have shows from New York City, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, also in Oakland, and we're picking up new shows all the time. So if you are interested in doing a show, I'll tell you what I want you to do. You see this young lady right here? I want you to reach out to her and find her. Her name is Tasemere Gathers, and she's the ace in New York City. Unmute yourself, Tasemere, and come on in. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you? I'm well.
You real chipper for a Monday morning.
Listen, I was up a little early.
Money don't sleep.
Well, Eli doesn't sleep either, so I'm up early in the morning.
Oh, just found out that we will be having a 20th anniversary celebration on December the 1st. So save the date, everybody. December the 1st, Be More News will be having a 20th anniversary. More details to come. I can tell you it won't be in Baltimore City.
Wow.
Nearby, but not in Baltimore. Because really, Be More News touches the entire state. And so we got to get a little closer to in the middle, like BWI Airport. Now, that sounds like a wonderful place to have a celebration. BWI, Thurgood Marshall Airport, named after Thurgood, Baltimore guy that went on to become a Supreme Court justice. And BWI, the entire airport is headed by a wonderful man named Ricky Smith, a black man.
You interviewed him before on your show.
And he'll be back. But this ain't about me. What do you have? I hear that you are going to actually leave New York City for a minute.
I am coming to Baltimore to produce the first brunch pitch in Baltimore. So I'm super excited about it. Baltimore is pushing a lot of Black businesses, and the brunch pitch focuses on Black entrepreneurs, whether you are looking to just start, you have an idea, you've been in business for a while. So I'm excited about coming to Baltimore.
And we're excited to have you. New York City, did you know? We talk a lot about history on this show. That New York City, there's this notion that if you want to get something done or see how something will pan out in the rest of the country, the first place that you go is New York City.
It's because New York City is a place of a lot of opportunity, but it also takes a lot of grit. Just because you're here doesn't mean that people are going to listen or people are going to participate.
I think Eli wants to come on the show.
Yeah, he's in the other room watching his show or something.
No, he knows this show is on. I think he wants to make a cameo appearance. Do you want to?
I'll go get him 1 second.
All right. So we're talking with Tasemere Gathers from New York City. She will be bringing the brunch pitch to Baltimore. I wanted to share this. If you would like a show on this network, do email us, editor@blackusa.news. If you know someone who is interested in doing a show, someone who can carry the ball. We want to have provocative conversations, discussions, covering topics that we need to be talking about. Our finances, our community, the politics, law enforcement, legalities. One of the things that we talk often with our New York family, we talk to them a lot about returning citizens. New York City, Baltimore, we are no strangers to the criminal justice system, unfortunately. So we have to use what we have been super and hyper exposed to begin to come up with some solutions. How to keep our people out of prison. Nothing good happens in prison. That's not a desired destination. That's not a destination of choice. But too often we end up in that clink. There he is, Eli.
Say hello. Say good morning.
You are getting big, man. Hey, Eli.
Say good morning.
We missed you, man. That's all right, man. He's getting big.
Yes, he is.
You can't hold him in that baby harness no more.
No, you see, he's like, I came on. I'm out of here. He walked away. But we started him young with the whole business acumen. Yesterday, my niece was over and she was asking me some questions, and I'm telling her, and Eli is just like, I know all of this already.
You're right. I was with my granddaughter yesterday, and she's about to turn 2. My great niece, when they allow us to see into the future, our children, our grandchildren, we are preparing them for a time that we probably will not see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their lives are supposed to go beyond ours. So anyway, what made you come up with the brunch pitch?
Oh, okay. So the DM firm is a boutique business development firm where we focus on the business plan with entrepreneurs and business strategy along with project management. So in my work with the DM firm, I was working primarily with Black entrepreneurs at the time. And I learned that a lot of people didn't really consider pitching unless they were going to go up to Shark Tank. And so they were like, I don't need to pitch. I don't need to do this. I just want to focus on my brand. But we were falling behind because when opportunities would present themselves, they weren't ready to meet the moment. And so during COVID, lots and tons of people became entrepreneurs during COVID, but that meant that more people needed platforms in order to just practice what they're doing and to get feedback. And from seasoned professionals and people in the industry that could really guide you to where you want to go, whether it's a service or it's a product. And so decided to do the brunch pitch when Eli was only 4 months, was when I did the first brunch pitch.
Wow.
In Brooklyn. Then we moved to Harlem. And then we came back to Brooklyn. We did the finale there in November. And it got so much positive responses around getting the brunch pitch out there. More folks were asking, could we bring it to different cities? I had not considered that. I thought this is going to be a beta and I don't even know how this is going to go. But I feel that the fact that we have a space that is defined for Black entrepreneurs, and I have to stress that because I've had to explain it a lot, that this is a platform for folks that identify as being Black, African American. This is not BIPOC, this is not minority, this isn't underserved communities. It's specifically for Black entrepreneurs because we often don't have spaces where we can go and get feedback. We often have to share spaces with tons of people, which means that we are also excluded from the experience. And so we lowered the barrier of entry to be super low. So we're not asking for EIN numbers, incorporating documents. We don't need to look at your tax returns. It's really an entry point for you to just come out, get some technical assistance, share what it is that you're working on, and start to build your ecosystem. Because if you are going to be a successful entrepreneur, you need people, and lots of people that have resources that can direct you to where you need to go and do warm introductions for you. So we get attorneys, we get seasoned entrepreneurs, we get people in media, we get people in banking to come out and give their time for free to hear your pitch, give you some feedback on what to do. And sometimes you make connections with other entrepreneurs that you didn't even know existed, but they're on the same journey that you're on. So you guys can partner, collaborate, things like that.
And there's a $300 cash prize this time.
It is in Baltimore, which is new because we usually don't do cash prizes, but there is a cash prize coming to Baltimore. So I'm super excited. We have applications open until Friday. So definitely send us your name, the name of your business, if you're selling a product or a service, what problem your business is solving, And why did you even want to start this business? That's literally all that it takes to enter the competition. You can't get any easier than that.
So let's put the details up on the screen.
Okay.
Good morning, Rico. Rico Crawley. Taz, I want you to take a moment and talk about teamwork.
Teamwork. Oh my gosh, the brunch pitch and anything that I do relies a lot on teamwork, because you cannot do all the things by yourself, which is why I'm so excited that we have collaborated together to bring the brunch pitch to Baltimore, because without you being my anchor in Baltimore, I would really be a fish out of water, not really understanding the landscape, understanding the needs of businesses. They change from location to location. Resources, people that they need to meet. Like, how do you even determine who should be a judge if you're not from this city? You really don't know. You can be bringing in outside people, transporting people that really don't understand how that ecosystem really works, which is different from New York City.
Taz, I want to shift gears for a second. This country is a world leader, the United States. People around the world want to come here. Whether they speak Swahili, Jambo, whether they speak French, bonjour, como se va? Whether they speak Spanish, buenos dias, senor. Maybe they're in Eastern Europe, yakshimas, dubzi, bodzi, dubzi. I was just throwing in my little international language. But I found that when this country goes to make rules for other countries, we go into foreign places and we do not have good contacts on the ground. I watch a lot of war movies, and quite often the scene is the intel on the ground say, hey, come on, strike. And when they get there, they find it's a setup because they had bad intel. Any advice for our government leaders on intel, on having good intel of what's happening in another country? We want to go to Jordan and make rules for people in Jordan, and we've never even been to Jordan, let alone know anybody in Jordan. Any thoughts on the need to have good intel on the ground?
Well, here are my thoughts. I feel like, one, we have to realize that we are colonizers. Everybody has the ability to be a colonizer. So one, you just have to accept that, right? Like, you will go into a place and likely think that your ideas are the best ideas and be very critical of what other people are doing, right? So you just got to be honest with, like, that's what you're working with. Because once you're honest with that, then you can be objective and reflective about where you're getting your intel from, right? So in order to have the intel, you have to develop relationships. And I think people suck at developing meaningful relationships with folks. And if you don't have meaningful relationships with anybody, or especially if you're going to another country, how are you going to get the intel that you need? And how do you know this intel is reliable? And the intel has to encompass like political things, cultural things, history. Oftentimes we go places, we don't understand the history of what happened before that's informing what is currently happening. So there's some research and some due diligence that you have to do. And I think the only way you can really do that well, if you first accept that you are a colonizer, or you have the ability to colonize, right? Like, you have to accept that. Like, not accepting it will not allow you to be open-minded and objective about what it is that you think you might want to accomplish, because those goals might also change. Once you meet people, develop relationships, you might be forced to reconcile your own biases and say, oh, well, now I know why that's not working, right? Like, now I know why this isn't going to happen. Maybe I might have to take a different approach, or maybe I should just leave this alone. But we, often think that what we think or how we do something is the best way that it should happen.
So, you know what? This is a shameless plug for my book. As you were talking, it took me back, and we got to get Steve's information there. Shoreline Inc. 2003 at Yahoo. We need to contact Steve. He's just down the road in Norfolk, Virginia. So let me just get that email address down. Shoreline Inc. 2003 Yahoo. So look, we speak English. We speak English because the people who effectively colonized America were British.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't the first.
Mm-hmm.
Over 100 years before the British came to North America, the Spanish were already in South America, and the Portuguese. That's why Brazilians speak Portuguese. And the French. If you go to Louisiana, right downtown, you're going to see French and Spanish influence, along with English. So does the same thing apply, that while the British ended up colonizing America, the first ones who attempted to do so were the Spanish? Case in point, in this book, I write that in Florida was owned by Spain until 1831. That meant that if you were enslaved and you escaped to Florida, they called it La Florida, you could be free.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. Every country, every culture, every group may put their own tweak on something. The Spanish came first, but it was the British who finished. And so it's a reminder that it's not always the first one there that wins the Golden Crown. The British had a chance to see how they did it, how the Spanish did it, how the Portuguese did it, and then they came with their own way. I'm not saying which one is better or worse. Slavery is slavery. But in terms of colonizing, there are multiple approaches. If you look at South America, and I'm talking about the transatlantic slave trade, most of South America is Spanish. So that means that Spain was getting a lot of damn gold and everything else out of South America.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So,
but I think it's important to know to be aware, which is why history and world history is so important, because this impacts everything, right? It impacts global economies, it impacts who our allies are, and it allows you to be more critical around information that people are giving you. because if you don't know the backstory, it's to me, history is the same thing as following people's lives, right? Like if you don't know what happened when someone was 5, but it might be showing up when they're 55, right? But because they've lived this life and things have happened, if you don't take the time to want to understand their life, you might just think that circumstances are just happening, which once you actually take the time to understand like where they come from and what they've experienced, you might have a different outlook other than listening to gossip that someone is saying about someone else, right? So we have to do the same thing. We have to, take a step back, try to understand what happened before, why there might be some conflict going on, and then make some sort of informed decision about an opinion around what's going on instead of just accepting whatever someone tells you.
So I want to shift gears a tad again. Now, what borough do you claim?
I'm from Brooklyn. I'm in Brooklyn right now.
A lot of out-of-towners come to New York and think of New York as monolithic.
Mm-hmm.
Like Brooklyn is the same as Harlem.
Oh no. Harlem isn't even its own borough, which is, Harlem has done a lot of propaganda where they make you feel that they are their own borough. Harlem is in Manhattan. Harlem is a community, but it feels and is promoted like its own separate entity. So I'm just saying, it's in Manhattan, 125th Street. 110th Street, I think that's where it starts.
What's special about Brooklyn?
So Brooklyn is special because if we're going to stay on this whole historical timeline, after the Harlem Renaissance, a lot of Black folks actually moved to Brooklyn, right? And so Brooklyn has a very unique, if you're going to just focus on the diaspora of Black people, it has a very unique position where there's actually like pockets of neighborhoods where people from the Caribbean live. And so you can walk into Little Haiti, you could walk into Trinidad, you could walk into Jamaica. They have their own shops, their own food, they have their own little, thing happening there. But then there's other pockets of Brooklyn where you have more enslaved Black people from America is the way that I'm going to describe it, that are here too. And then you also have African people here. Whereas if we compare to Harlem focuses on mainly formerly ancestors, the people that were enslaved here, and African people. You kind of miss the Caribbean American experience. So Brooklyn kind of gives you all of that, along with other cultures also have their own pockets of neighborhoods that they're in. So it's a little different kind of feel. You could say Brooklyn is more authentic. I'm going to say it. Because we don't have to market to tourists. Like if you're in Manhattan, you're marketing to a lot of tourist people. Whereas if you want like real Caribbean food, you might want to come to Brooklyn for that. Just bigging up my borough. That's all.
So where'd you do the brunch pitch in New York?
So I started in Brooklyn. I actually started in East New York, which is the section of Brooklyn that I'm from. It sits right next to Brownsville, that has been very disinvested in. East New York for over like the past 10 years has been getting a lot more investment. So I started in East New York. Then we went to Harlem because how can you do something Black centric in New York City and not go to Harlem? So went to Harlem, actually partnered with Regina Smith and Walter Edwards from Harlem Business Alliance. If anybody knows about doing work in Harlem, it is extremely difficult to do it well if you do not meet the people on the ground and have their buy-in. So did it in Harlem, which was a huge success. Uh, and then did the finale in Brownsville because Brownsville is one of, as I mentioned before, a very disinvested location where people feel like nothing great happens in Brownsville. People go there and it's just like ruckus, the Wild Wild West. So bringing the brunch pitch to Brownsville was like very heartfelt for me because it was a testament that talent and with Black folks is everywhere. We're in the ghetto, we're in the great neighborhoods, we're in, community colleges, we're in elite schools, we're everywhere. And sometimes people get overlooked because of where they are just located and where they live or where they come from. And so to bring the brunch pitch there was amazing. So we've done it there. We've also did a kids brunch pitch earlier this year, and then we went to New Jersey, to Newark. If you get the trend, we're going to the places where people are usually saying there's a lot of crime, there's a lot of disinvestment, there's not a lot of attention and love given to these areas. So we went to Newark.
See, I thought you were going to say, we went to the places where the people told us not to go. Dun, dun, dun. We on a world tour with Mr. Malcolm McLaren. We're going to each and every place, including Spain, Asia, Africa, Tokyo, Mexico. I'm sorry.
I want to go to all the places where Black folks have a hard time getting things done. I feel like the brunch pitch is not needed in affluent neighborhoods because they already have resources. I want to go to the hood of the hood of the hood.
But you know what affluent neighborhoods,
produce talent.
Neighborhoods tend not to have?
What?
Culture.
Well, that's because, they define values in a different kind of way.
Oh, we're not knocking it, but they got to come back to the hood if it's going to be authentic. You just said you can go to Harlem all day long, but if you've not been to Brooklyn, and let's just big up Brooklyn all the way back in 1835, James Weeks established that community called Weeksville. And a lot of New Yorkers don't know about it, but there's a Weeksville Heritage Center, which features homes that are replicas of homes from back in the early 1800s. Slavery ended in the North. I talk about it in the book. Slavery ended up north in 1804, 61 years before the Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation. So there's a longer history of free Blacks in Brooklyn, in Manhattan, Seneca Village, than in most places. So there's this unique history of New York. You were the first to experience freedom. The Lower Mason-Dixon line, your Southern cousins were enslaved. But in 1804 in New York, not saying you guys did not have to deal with racists. You had some of the first encounters, but as this country evolved, New Yorkers have been a part of this evolution and progress for Black people in racist ass America. So big up.
Yes. Thank you.
When it comes to Planned Parenthood, Planned Parenthood knew that before it could make a move nationally, it had to first make an impression on people in New York City. And I'm looking at this through Afrocentric eyes. We know who Margaret Sanger was. We know who Charles Galton was, Charles Darwin. We know these people had no love for black people. All they wanted to do was kill black babies. But they knew that if they were going to get national traction, they had to go to New York first. On the positive side, New York is the home, the state that is, of the Niagara movement. W.B. Du Bois and others at the turn of the century. A lot of black people won't let you forget about the Jews who were part of founding the NAACP, but it started all in Niagara, New York, the Niagara movement. A lot of people don't know that Harriet Tubman has property still to this day near Niagara and next door in Lewiston, New York, and that there's a river. The Niagara Falls turns into the Niagara River, and Harriet Tubman crossed that river with many people taking them to freedom. So we have so much to learn from each other. I love New York. I consider it a second home. There's so much energy. It's the media capital of the world. And Tasemere gathers, and Eli, and of course, your wonderful husband who lived there.
Yes. But you know, New York City, for everything that is amazing, has its own set of challenges. And so I think that that's why it's stated that if you can make something work in New York, you probably have something good to take even internationally, because it takes a certain amount of grit, because there's so many roadblocks. If I tell you I have lived in New York City my entire life, I have worked in communities in New York City for my professional career, and still getting people to listen to you is hard. It's hard. You have to really have grit and tenacity in order to make something happen and hold somebody's attention, and even continue to push through when people tell you no, because you get a lot of no's, and no comes in a lot of different forms. And so if you can push through those barriers in New York City, then yeah, you probably have something that is going to be well received somewhere else. Because when I took the brunch pitch to New Jersey, oh my gosh, I was like, you guys love this? Because when I take it to New York, they're like, girl, another pitch competition. What are we doing here? What makes this different? You really have to prove what it is. But to take and then to bring it to Baltimore, and the love that I've been getting so far with just getting people to come on board has not been as challenging as sometimes it is getting people to buy in New York City.
See, that's that big more new shotgun.
And I couldn't do it without you, Donnie.
It's a team. We don't get to do the Black Wall Streets in New York without you. They don't know. I ain't going. If Taz ain't gonna be there, we got to find another date. I want you to tell them about how and why you started your business, the DM Firm.
Okay, so the DM Firm started really out of a rebellion. So at the time I was working and I had these ideas, and my boss really wasn't interested in trying a lot of my ideas. She was more committed to her own ideas. And so I started testing things out on my friends who were aspiring entrepreneurs, and they really convinced me to try to turn this into a business. And I was very reluctant in the beginning because I was of an employee mindset. Like, I just work a job and collect my paycheck. I am not an entrepreneur. But they kept pushing me. I actually called one of my previous clients from another job that I had worked on, and I was telling people like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this freelancing. And he actually got me my first client, and my first client refused to pay me if I didn't have a business. And so she actually forced me to incorporate and create an entity so I could get paid. So that was the motivation behind actually starting the DM firm.
I need you to say that again. I need you to say that again.
That my first client actually wouldn't pay me unless I had a business. And so here I was, my friends were pushing me to become an entrepreneur. I had landed a client. I wasn't going to be able to get payment unless I had an LLC. So I bit the bullet and I invested the money. It was to start my LLC. And then she paid me. And so once she paid me, she actually stayed my first client for 2 years. And I tested and reworked a lot of different.
An award?
Excuse me?
Did we ever give her a Black Wall Street award?
No, we didn't. Not yet.
Oh, put that on the list. We need to knock that off.
And so I built my company while I was working full time. It gave me the ability to really listen to what my customers were saying they wanted and what my skill set was. So I was very transparent that I'm not going to be able to do all the things well. So what is it that they're asking me for that I can actually do well? And what started to bubble up was that my clientele didn't have business plans and they didn't understand business strategy. And so I created that as my niche, and just kept plugging away. And then I was faced with a decision to make, which was actually a really hard decision because I had started my company. I wasn't making a whole lot of money, but I was making money and I had a job. And I didn't want to work at my job anymore. And so again, because I was in an employee mindset, I at first thought I'll go get a new job. And so I called my best friend and I said, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. I think I'm going to apply for another job. And she's like, I think you're crazy because you started your business. Why wouldn't you just, quit your job and work for yourself? And I was like, because I'm not no entrepreneur. What are you talking about? And so what she said to me stuck with me. She said, listen, you already know what it feels like to work a job. And you can go get a job whenever you want to get a job. But you don't know what it feels like to be an entrepreneur. So what happens if you become an entrepreneur and it doesn't work? You'll just go get a job and you already know what that feels like. But if you become an entrepreneur and it works, that's a life that none of us really know, like what's gonna happen. So she wrote my resignation letter. She left out like the date that I was going to be my last day. And we started practicing how I was gonna resign. So I resigned from my job in May 2019, and I've been a full-time founder.
Okay, we need to bring her on the show too.
Oh, you want to bring her on the show too? Okay.
We're going to write some resignation letters. Look, we got to do something. This is a brand new season. We're going into September. We need to, you know what? We got to do a resignation letter workshop. I ain't like your ass no way. I just wanted to tell you, I ain't never coming back here no more. How's the resignation letter go?
Well,
I'm so tired of going to get your damn coffee. Go get your own damn coffee.
I don't really know how it goes because she wrote mine. To be quite honest, I did.
Breaking up. Where you at? Did we lose you? Write your resignation letter. And look, somebody got to work a job. I'm not saying everybody is has to start a business. I have something to pitch. What should I do? My man out there in Oakland, Kamal Hubbard. Taz is clearly having some technical difficulties. Kamal Hubbard, we miss you, Kamal. Kamal started on this network, and then some big famous network picked him up. But at least he stops by every now and then to throw us a couple of doggy treats. So thank you, Kamal. Thank you for teaching us about NFT, non-fundable tokens. We miss you, Kamal. You got to come back, Kamal. Kamal was teaching us all about cryptocurrency. And Kamal, I want you to know I do have an investment I can tell you about today. Yes, Michael Haney, we're going to do the resignation letter workshop. Yes. Dear ma'am, I am no longer willing to suffer at the abuse of your sorry employership. I'm tired of you talking smack about people. Kamal is the man. Yeah, so how about that? A resignation letter workshop. I love it. I love it. So that looks like it's going to be, that's it for today. I do want to encourage you to check out bemorenews.com and also blackusa.news. I'm not sure what Michael Haney's trying to communicate. Great, I'll be back. The guilt trip worked. Happy for all the contributors. Kamal Hubbard out there in the Bay Area. I told y'all we have contacts on the Bay Area. Taz made so many wonderful points. What I really heard her say was get out your comfort zone, get out your own way. Stop asking about what can go wrong and think about what can go right. Stop thinking about what can go wrong and start thinking about what can go right. Pharaoh, stop thinking about what can go wrong and think about what can go right. Pharaoh looking at me like I done lost my cotton picking mind. We do that. We self-sabotage. We have everything right in place. All we got to do is show up. 90% of this thing is just showing up. Just show up. You'd be surprised because so many people don't show up. Sometimes showing up is all you got to do. I remember when my son was transitioning from high school to college, and he felt he was, I hope he doesn't get mad at me telling this story. Not that he can beat me, but I want to respect his life. But he thought that he didn't have quite enough talent to play for Towson. And this is what I know. This big dog talking. If you keep showing up for whatever position, if that's what you want to do, keep showing up. I guarantee you, one day, the star ain't going to show. Anything could happen. They might just get tired of playing football. But you keep showing up. If you might be a little smaller. You might not be as fast, but you show up. There's always going to be someone faster, stronger, bigger, badder. So what? Speaking of Brooklyn, Biggie Smalls got a lyric. He said, imagine me being afraid of somebody else that breathes the same air as me. Imagine me saying to my God, you didn't give me enough. You gave so-and-so more than what you gave me. So therefore, I'm predestined not to be as successful as them. What kind of hogwash chicanery is that? I remember, and this is no slight on anybody. I'm just telling you the truth. A young lady told me this is a white man's world. What did she just say? Ain't no white man make the world. God made the world. You have all kinds of people on the planet. Black, white, Asian, people from the Middle East. And you can't even make that. Those are just broad categories. You get up into Russia, my God, several former Soviet republics, from Ukraine all the way to the different Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, where the world globe at? I mean, and then from Russia, you got China and the various Chinese and Asian cultures, from the Philippines to Vietnam to Cambodia. This world is for who? This world don't belong to no man. This world belongs to those who go out there and get it. My big challenge with living in America is the visuals, the imagery, and that's why I do media. Because quite often in this country, I was thinking to myself watching television last night, as a black man watching television, I don't see me. I don't see people who talk like me, who sound like me, and generally speaking, who think like me. I see people that may have my same complexion, but I really don't want to listen to people who are trained to speak to us a certain kind of way because it's more mainstream and more palatable, and it makes other people feel comfortable. That ain't me. This is Be More News, Black USA. We come into our people from our perspective and our own vernacular so that we can help empower and help grow our community. That's why we do media. We must have black media. This event we're planning for the 20th anniversary of Be More News, it's significant in that we are celebrating having our own voice. Because when we don't have our own voice, when we don't have a blackusa.news, a Be More News, then we allow other people to speak for us. And they can't speak for me. They don't even know my history. Quite often, they don't even know their own history. And if you're going to come over here messing with a history buff about who I am and what I represent, what my people represent, then you got to know some history. And if you don't know this history, you have no relevance as far as I'm concerned. If you think, for instance, that a black man can't be the father of Russian literature like Alexander Seregnev Pushkin, if you don't know that the first king of Hawaii, and I always say King Kamehameha, but y'all know what I'm talking about, was a black man, Kamehameha. If you don't know the first king of Hawaii was a black man, then how can you come over here and talk to me about what black people can and cannot accomplish? So that's why I do media, because our voice is important. Too often our voice is muted, or they want to misportray us, or we have to be catching a ball or dancing or singing or doing something buffoonish. That's why we must have black media. Because when Black History Month rolls around, we're going to talk about more than Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. We're going to tell you about Zumbi, Z-U-M-B-I, baddest freedom fighter in Brazil. There are 40 million black people in the United States, 100 million black people in Brazil. If you don't know about Zumbi, that's like living in Black America and not knowing about Malcolm X, or not knowing about Martin Luther King, or not knowing about Chief John Horse, the hero of my book, Chief John Horse, who went on the Trail of Tears and was not a slave and led 200 black people, 200 black families to Oklahoma, and then to Texas, and then to Mexico. Stories never told. If you read this book, you'll learn about Juan Garrido. And I ain't saying I was a big fan of Juan Garrido. He was a Spanish conquistador, but it certainly is antithetical to this notion that black people only came in the bottom of a slave ship. We know, especially if you read this book, that black people were here when Columbus' dusty ass came across the water. Know your history. Know where you come from. Know where your people come from. Know that there were black people already here. Why is that important? Because it changes the whole storyline. Some idiots want to paint a picture like all black people came to America as slaves. It's simply not true. A lot of white people came here as slaves. But you never hear that talked about in the news. That picture is never portrayed. You never hear anything about white people as indentured servants. So that's why you need a black media outlet, so that we don't have to be all sugarcoating and apologetic for things that people should know. They want to tell you that George Washington was a good man and he never told a lie. Sure, he lived a lie. He was a human trafficker. That's a big ass lie. And anybody that supports human trafficker, you can go into the same boat with him, Columbus, and the others who came to the Western Hemisphere to rape, rob, and pillage. People were nice to you, gave you corn, and you give them smallpox in return. What kind of diabolical, insidious evil is this? And then these same people want to talk about teaching democracy to the rest of the world. You can't even keep your own room clean. Before you go telling somebody else about democracy, you need to learn what it is for yourself. America, the beautiful. Well, that's my cup of coffee for this morning. I hope you had yours. We got some events coming up, including the Synergy event by Mr. Ricky. What's going on here? Okay. Synergy on September the 20th at BWI. Go to synergybwi.com, synergybwi.com. Mr. Ricky Smith, black man who's running the airport. We all should know about Mr. Ricky Smith. He is helping businesses get established at BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport as we speak. SynergyBWI.com, SynergyBWI.com, September 20th. That's my daddy's birthday, so it's going to be a really special day. Going to be out there at Live Casino. I ain't no casino person, but I certainly will go through there and check out the event. I imagine they're going to have some dynamic food because that's how they got to get me. Synergy, BWI. And also, I want you to stay on the lookout. We're going to get more information to you about the Be More News 20th anniversary out at BWI Airport on December 1st. My name's Donnie Glover. Be nice to somebody, hug your neighbors, get some bleach. I got to go to the store today, give me a gallon of bleach. I ran out of bleach. Got to keep the bleach. I tell you what I did. I got to take a minute and tell you this. I threw away some stuff this weekend that I should have thrown away a long time ago. You know that stuff in the back of the closet had cobwebs on it and everything. Or at least when I put it in the sunlight, it was just, couldn't believe I had it in there that long. I threw away some coats. Coats I've been looking at, coats I have not worn, gave them away. You'd be surprised. What one man's loss is another man's treasure. The coats may not be any good to you. Get rid of them. It's time to give them to somebody else. Lay them outside. Take them to a homeless shelter. Throw that stuff away. You'll feel better. And I'm going to feel better when I get some bleach and put it on some of them spots where there were cobwebs. My name's Donnie Glover. And thank you for supporting this show. Thank you for supporting blackusa.news and bemorenews.com. This is our 20th year. Yes, we are proud of it. Yes, we want the world to know about it, because being in business, like Tasemere has alluded, is not an easy thing. But we are blessed. We are blessed to be here. We're not dependent on any man. We know that we're here because the good Lord has blessed us so. On that note, you have a beautiful day. Hug somebody and be kind. Everybody's going through something. Good morning, world.